Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's me, Mr. Cameraman, and today we're going to be ranking all 5 seasons of Gotham. I hope you've been enjoying all these July videos. I don't know exactly when this is going out, but I think it's later July. So I hope you guys are enjoying all these videos. And we're going to be ranking all 5 seasons of Gotham. I'll say this was the most challenging ranking I've ever had to do for this channel. I think like Arrow and Flash and DC Legends, it was all like pretty obvious how I was going to be ranking them. This time, I'm honestly pretty like stunned on like how I'm going to be doing it. Because as much as I enjoy all of these seasons, I don't feel like there's a worst and best season of Gotham. I think there is a best season. I think there's also, I don't know what the worst season is to be said. So I'm kind of just been going through with them, but honestly, I think each season is pretty much almost on the same level. Like, not on the same level, but they're all pretty close. In last place, I think I'm going to go season 5. I at first actually thought this was going to be pretty higher up. I think the reason why this season falls here is simply because I just don't think it's that good. I actually love it. The thing is, I love this season. I just don't think it can compare to a full 23 episode season, because this season's only 12 episodes, and one of them is the worst episode of the entire show. And I think 11 episodes can't compare to the plot lines in the other seasons, especially with the fact that this season doesn't feel like a full season. It feels more like an event almost, like they're trying to have this massive spectacle of a final season to wrap up the show. And I think that's a great decision for the show to make, but I don't think that can be compared to the plot lines of the first 4 seasons. I think the first 4 seasons are also good, and I think this season's also good. I just don't think it is as good as some of the other seasons. I think the other seasons just kind of do it better than this season does it, so I don't think I can put this much higher. In 4th place, I'm going to have to go 4th place with season 1. I'll say this one is close. This 4th and 3rd place are pretty close. I think the only reason season 1's going here is I think season 1's a strong start to the show. I don't think it's a strong season of the show, though. I think this season kind of is all over the place throughout. I think the mobsters being the villain kind of makes sense, but I don't think they are the main villains. I think this season is so interesting. I'll say, I loved this season. I was hooked from the moment in. And I think the season does a great job building Jim as a character and Bullock as a character. I think the issue with this season is I think the other seasons feel thought out with arcs and having a villain. I think this time you have these 2 mobsters that are clearly running the shows, but I don't think you think that they're going to be those main villain characters until very close to the end when you're like, oh, I guess this is where the season's heading. I think if you were watching for the first time and by episode 10 you were told, oh, those 2, Maroni and Falcone, those are your main villains, I wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, wait, why are those the main villains? I thought there was going to be a new hidden villain coming out, or maybe Penguin would come out, or maybe it would be Fish. Instead, I feel like there's a lot of different people trying to claim Gotham, which is an interesting idea, but I think it doesn't pay off the rest of the season very well. I think Jim is good throughout the season. I don't think he is great. Part of what I do love about this season is it does go to like those Arrowverse basics, where the first season's kind of always was just like 1 episode plots. Like, oh, there's a new criminal, we're going to solve it for an episode. Like, I think it's done very well in this season. And I really do love a lot of the characters in this season, without a doubt. I just don't love what this season does exactly, I guess. Like, I think it makes good decisions. I just don't think it makes the best decisions. And I think I do like a lot of the characters. I like how the characters are built up. I just think the season kind of ends at a very interesting point, and it doesn't, like, I don't think this season works as well as the other seasons. I think it's good, I just don't think it's as good as the other ones. I could have put it last, I just didn't put it last because I think it does still work a little better than season 5. In 3rd place is going to be season 2. This is another interesting one. I think the reason why this is going to go here is simply because of the second half. I think the first half of the season is very strong. Galavan is one of the strongest villains Gotham has ever had, without a doubt. And I think Silver, I think everything that this first chunk of this season does is some of the best Gotham is. And I think it's pretty apparent throughout. It has some of the best episodes throughout this first chunk of the season. I think the season just at this first decent amount does very well. And once Jim goes to prison, I feel like the season kind of just completely doesn't work as well. I think Strange is a great villain throughout seasons 3 through 5. I think when Strange is kind of that villain who kind of just like shows up throughout the show. When you get him with Fish in season 3 and season 5, you get with the chips. So Strange always is a villain, but he's never that. Like, I don't think he works as the huge villain role. And I think him with the investigation of Bruce's parents' murder is interesting. I just don't think the idea... I think Strange is actually an interesting villain. I don't think the idea of the creatures in the monsters or whatever is such an interesting villain because it doesn't work for Gotham. Gotham works when it is the more street level stuff or a little wacky. I think monsters is a little too far, which is why I don't love the first few episodes of season 3 when he's a bounty hunter. I do think though that this part with Strange, I think Strange is a good villain. I just don't think he has a great arc. I think the finale kind of falls when the other parts of the season are so good. And I don't think Strange is the real villain. I think the monsters he's creating are, but I don't think that, like, Strange feels like much of a threat. And I feel like that's, if it was just that Strange part, that would be the worst arc in Gotham, I think. And I think when it's put with the Galavan arc, which has, I think, some of the best episodes of all of Gotham without a doubt, I think it pretty much evens out to third place. I will say, I think that first Galavan arc is one of the best arcs of Gotham, and I also was definitely debating putting the second place. Like, I think all of these seasons are really interchangeable. I think I wouldn't be shocked if someone's favorite season is season 2. I wouldn't be shocked if it's season 1. Like, it could be season 5 even. Like, it could be anything. Someone's least favorite season could be season 4, which is going to be at the top, so. Guess I just spoiled it, so in second place is going to be season 3. I loved season 3, and I think part of it's because I just loved Jervis Tetch as a villain. I think he is one of the strongest villains in Gotham. His arcs throughout this entire show, in my opinion, are really good. I think the idea of the Court of Owls being a villain are also a very good villain for Gotham, because I think Jim is a very good good protagonist in that arc. And not just that, I feel like everyone has a stake in this villain arc. I think, for example, last season when Strange was the villain, it was like the police are investigating Strange, but it's also like people are like in captivity with Strange and they kind of find out stuff about Strange for Bruce. I feel like this season everyone wants to know about the Court of Owls. So I think the Court is such a good villain for this season. And I love how it ties to every character in the show. So it isn't necessarily an A plot, B plot. It's more everyone is facing the same antagonist, which I think really works for this show. I think once Jim, especially when he becomes back part of the Force, I think his plot against Mario and the virus as a villain is done very well, because I think the virus is such a good force throughout the show, I'd say. And I think the virus is honestly one of my favorite parts of this season, because I think it isn't such a basic plot point. However, because Lee's infected and Mario's infected and how Jervis is using it, I think it makes the season so much better, and it's like, it amplifies the season, and it makes the Court a bigger threat, and it makes how everything ties in together, ties season 2 together. I think the season's just very strong throughout. And in first place is season 4. I don't think this is very shocking. I think this season is just done in a very good way that, like, everything just feels very, just incredible. Sophia Falcone, I think, is probably the best plot in all of Gotham. I'm willing to say that. I think Sophia as a villain is done so well throughout this entire season. I think she's probably the best villain in all of Gotham. I'm willing to say that. I think that's the best arc. I think it's up there with Galavan, maybe even better. And I think the pig, those 4 pig episodes are so good. I think I watched those episodes, like, I binged those. Like, those were some of the best episodes in all of Gotham, because I think the pig is such a good villain. and I think what he stood for. I think when it was revealed that Sophia did it, I think it put James Gordon in a position where he had to start making these tough calls, and he started moving up just from being a detective. This is when he became captain, and this is when the show really started to ramp up to become more serious. I think Sophia is one of the biggest threats of all of Gotham, and I think this season really just does a lot that's done very well. And I think the Ra's al Ghul plot throughout this entire season is done very well for Bruce's sake. I think it puts Bruce through a very challenging arc, but I think it pays off very well once you get all the villains working together. I will say I think the Jeremiah Jerome plot at the second half of the season isn't as strong as the first half. I don't think it's weak either, though. I think Jerome Valeska is such a good villain, and I like how he actually gets to be a main villain for once. And I think Jeremiah actually then comes in and becomes a more interesting villain than Jerome. I think Jeremiah does a very good job kind of taking up the mantle almost for the Joker, and I really like how it's done in this part of the show. I think the finale of this season is the best episode of all of Gotham, and I think this season is just structured in a way that I think everything about it just really works. Like, I think there isn't really a bad episode this season. I think when Sophia is the villain, I think it challenges Jim, because we know Jim brought Sophia to Gotham, so Jim is the issue. I think Bullock has done this so well in the season, because Bullock is having to work with Jim, who he doesn't like and stuff. And I think it's all done in a very interesting way. I like the tensions that are built into the season. I think the Narrows plot, even though it's not that interesting, it does work. I think overall the season pays off each character, does interesting things with all of the characters, and I think this is the best season. Besides that, I think that's all I have to say. I think this is the most controversial show I've had to rank, because I think that all of these seasons are so good. I think like The Flash, it was pretty clear that they're a bad and good season. Same with Arrow, same with Legends. I just think here it's like any of these could be the best. So I think that's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.